In the 1950s, the era of the main battle tanks began. The Sherman was inferior to them in all respects. But new military conflicts brought it back to the battlefield. The improved Sherman fought in the Middle East until 1973 and was a threat even to the modern Soviet T-62 tanks. The new Sherman story begins in 1948, when the Israeli Defense Force was created. The new army needed tanks. The first Shermans came to Israel in a funny way. Shermans were purchased mainly from scrap dealers and put back into operating condition. It wasn't difficult to rebuild the running gear, but to get the guns was a huge problem. That's why the Israeli military was very interested in the French upgrading projects for the Sherman Revalorisé. In 1955, the first Israeli-French project, the Sherman M50, appeared. The French designers swapped the old suspension with the horizontal veloute spring suspension and replaced the engine. But most importantly, they installed a new 75mm gun from the French AMX-13. This was a shortened version of the German Panther gun. To install a new gun in the original turret, the designers had to cut off the back of the turret and weld a new large bustle. The initial velocity of this gun was 975 meters per second, which together with modern rounds increased the armor penetration of the improved Sherman. This French gun was installed on another interesting version of the Sherman. The Egyptian army ordered an unusual hybrid of the M4A4 and the Tower FL-10 from the AMX-13 from the French designers. With the new gun, the Egyptian Sherman also received an autoloader with 12 rounds. This greatly increased the rate of fire and allowed them to reduce the tank crew from 5 to 4 people. However, after the tank fired off all 12 rounds, it needed 15 minutes to reload. In the early 60s, the Israeli army needed a tank capable of penetrating the Soviet T-55 at a comfortable distance. The most convenient solution was another improvement of the Sherman. This time, the French designers installed the 105mm gun from the AMX-30 on an American tank. To make this possible, they reduced the barrel length and installed a large muzzle brake. This new tank was named the Sherman M51. These late modifications of the Sherman were used a lot in the Arab-Israeli conflicts. They fought with both the tanks of the Second World War and with more modern opponents. According to records, a Sherman with a 105mm gun and heat rounds was a serious threat to the Soviet T-55 and even T-62 tanks. Despite its shortcomings, the Sherman is the legendary tank of World War II. The great flexibility of the Sherman design allowed it to be upgraded as needed. Even 30 years after its first battle in El Alamein, the Sherman was a worthy opponent for modern tanks. The M4A1, Easy 8, Thunderbolt 7, Firefly, Fury, Revalorisé and other modifications of the Sherman in World of Tanks illustrate the journey the Sherman has made. Now that you know the history of this legendary vehicle, try it in World of Tanks.